Welcome back. It is time for the verdict. Look who's here, Charlie Langton.
My man. Let's go.
Thank you.
Yes.
Charlie, we've been talking about this one for weeks, really, but Michigan State made it official. They have fired Mel Tucker, they believe, for cause.
Yeah. All right, so
bringing shame to the university.
I don't think it'll stand. I'll say that right now. It's going to stand, obviously, but they're going to end up paying the guy. But go ahead, Charlie.
Well, so that's the big discussion. But let's break it down. Everybody watching this show right now, everybody in this room right now, if assuming you have a job, there's two statuses in this world. You are either an at-will employee or a contract employee, okay? If you're in a union, that's a collective bargaining, it's a contract, okay? So everybody, at-will means if you don't have a contract, you're at-will. So what does that mean? You can be fired for an at-will, any reason at all. Now, everybody in this room, I know we have all written contracts. So we come into the second one, but many, many people watching, at will means you can be fired for any reason. Now, if you have a contract, most contracts say you can only be fired for something called cause. That's the big difference, and it's huge. What does cause mean?
Yeah, what is cause?
Cause. And that is loosely defined in the law. It's not well defined, but generally it means if you bring shame to your employer, you commit a crime, a major crime, or you do something that's involving moral turpitude, something really bad. Because contracts in this world are golden. If we have an employment contract, that is, and judges uphold these contracts. But for this little bit of thing called cause. Now, in Mel Tucker's case, he has a contract. He can only be fired for cause. So what's the cause? We have to focus on what did he do. And it better be really bad. Michigan State said he was a public disrespect, he was in contempt, ridicule, moral turpitude, all this stuff. But what did he do? And that's where we will, he had phone sex with someone who was a loose connection to the school. She says it was not consensual. He says it was. In the world of the law, Mel Tucker likely will sue Michigan State, saying Michigan State violated my employment contract. Michigan State will defend the case, saying no, the contract is good.
Your contract.
You violated the contract because of this moral.
Who do you think wins that case?
And generally speaking, I think Mel Tucker does.
Charlie, let me ask you.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the bottom line.
Let me ask you, for little old Ryan Ermani, the amount of memes, jokes, whatever you want to say, the amount of people that have sent me something to my phone about this Mel Tucker phone sex situation. I can only imagine what is going around the country right now. How does that not bring shame to the university?
It does.
Also, how does he keep his job as a football coach when he has become the joke of the country?
Well, but you know what? But here's the deal. So again, employment contracts are a big deal. We want people to have a contract. You got to do something really bad. If this is just an now, did he do it during halftime? Okay, that would be different. I don't know. I don't think he did. But this was late at night.
How is that relevant?
This was
actually on duty. He was on duty. But here's I'll say two things that make the point for Mel, because I don't think his career is over.
I think it's definitely over.
The first two words are Hugh Grant. The second two are Eddie Murphy. Both of them caught doing something that would be questionable or shameful. Both of their careers survived. It just takes time.
They didn't have a contract, though.
And here's the difference.
I'm just saying, I'm talking about public image, because that's what he was mentioning.
Well, here's my point.
Public image.
Eddie Murphy or Hugh Jackman is not going into a 15, 16, Hugh Grant, 15, 16-year-old's living room telling their parents that
I want to coach your kid.
I want him to cut. You know what I mean?
I understand.
I'm the role model for your kid.
And he admitted this issue. So, and I think you brought up about the
question, ridicule, though.
To me, a big component is, was it consensual or not? And that seems to be missing from this whole conversation, because if it's not consensual, to me, that takes this up several levels.
A big level.
If it was consensual sex between two adults, then it's kind of in the who cares bucket, no?
Right. So, I mean, let's elevate, and I don't mean any disrespect, but let's elevate it just so we understand the facts. If he had sexually assaulted someone, hit in the alley, assaulted, totally different. Why is it different? Why is it different?
Well, it's a crime.
It's a crime. Okay, that's the worst. That violates, that's a no-brainer, okay? If he was dating someone and the date they broke up, that's probably the lowest level.
And
so it's got to be something in between.
And she could have hung up.
She could have. So we're in this middle ground now, but because we're in the middle ground, the burden is practically probably going to be on Michigan State.
I think they're going to lose a lot of money here.
And they've got this guy's got a written contract.
What should they have done as the lawyer for Michigan State? What's the advice to them? What should they have done differently to
call them into the room with no cameras around and say, listen, you violated your contract, okay? Yeah. Let's buy you out. Let's make a deal right now, okay? You've got $80 million left on your contract. We'll give you 10. We'll give you 5. We'll give you 50. Whatever the deal is. And you sign a consent agreement. We settle it. We're out of there.
Yeah.
Now, likely that'll happen now.
Don't suspend him without pay, and definitely don't fire him.
Michigan State, arguably, all those things you got, did they happen after he was fired without pay?
No.
Well, it came out afterwards, though.
Oh, yeah. Oh, after the suspension.
How long did it take Michigan State before they fired this guy? How many hours did it take?
Right.
Very, very quickly. Did Michigan State contribute anything at all to this guy being the ridicule and the joke of the country? Yeah, I'd argue yes.
Yes.
They did. It's not him. He wanted to keep it quiet.
Right.
He never wanted this thing. It's Michigan State. Why? Because they fired him without pay right after, probably without an investigation.
Oh, man.
There it is.
I'm just saying. Back up that Brinks, Charlie. Back up that Brinks truck.
We have a gavel?
I'm just saying.
Back up the Brinks
truck,
argument. Mel.
That man is my lawyer for anything that happens to me.
I mean,
don't know who's going to win. It may not win, but it is an argument.
Wow. So something else, an important case to talk about, and we followed this when this Miller hearing was happening for Ethan Crumbley, the Oxford high school shooter. Back in court tomorrow. So this is an important date where we're going to see something significant. We'll talk about that coming up. Okay, I want to talk to Charlie about what's happening tomorrow when it comes to the Oxford school shooter. Big decision coming.
Yeah, this is a big decision. This is really going to be the whole case. I think from day one on this particular case, the Oxford shooter, the evidence is overwhelming that he did the terrible thing, shooting and killing 4 students and others too. Okay, the only issue in that case was how many years in prison does he get? Does he get life or a term of years? So we have something called a Miller hearing because he's a minor, and the Supreme Court of the United States said you cannot automatically sentence a minor to life in prison. You can, but you have to have this hearing. And there are basically 5 factors that the judge is going to have to look to. The age, his family environment, the facts of the case, and can he be rehabbed? That was only 4, but we'll just go with those for now, okay? So the judge had a 3-day hearing or so. Evidence was presented, psychologists, psychiatrists, people, but they all testified, and the judge is going to make his ruling tomorrow. He's going to analyze the 5 factors and then come up with a decision. There's only 2 decisions he can make. One, life in prison, or a sentence between 25 and 40 years up to 60 years in prison. That's what he's got. So he's minimally will get 25 years. Minimally. He could get 40 years up to 60. Then he's on parole, and he could stay in prison at that point 60 years.
And this is what we'll know tomorrow?
We're going to know tomorrow. We're going to know tomorrow. There's a formal sentencing date where victims... In
December, I believe, right?
December 8th, where the victims can come and talk to the court. Again, if there's some discretion that the judge will give himself, that's fine. Now, but objectively looking at this, though, I said in the Miller hearing, the prosecutor did a very, very good, they're sad. Everyone was crying at some point in the crime, at some point during this hearing. This is a horrific case. He planned this. He wanted to be famous. He shot as many people as he could. He enjoyed seeing people suffer. He enjoyed killing things to watch people die. All of that came out. On the other side, the defense tried to argue he's young. He had undiagnosed mental illness, and he can be rehabilitated, which is evidence in some of the he broke down. The shooter broke down when he saw a teacher friend testify. So there is some goodness there. Again, judge has to weigh it. The presumption in the law is that a minor does not do life in prison. However, my thinking, this crime is so bad, so well planned out. Ethan, this shooter was astute. He knew things. He researched how much time would I get if I commit a murder, that type of thing.
Wow.
So I think he knew enough, certainly, to understand the risks and the consequences. I think he's going to get life in prison with no parole. But we'll see tomorrow.
This Miller hearing is a relatively new application of
a year ago or so.
The law, based on another case, right?
The Miller versus, it was a Supreme Court case, Miller versus Alabama, a case, similar facts, a young person who was, I think, the driver of the getaway car at a murder. And under the law there is that the driver of the getaway car, not necessarily the shooter, if you're together, you get the same amount of crime, which is life in prison.
Right.
That's still the law today in Michigan, too, by the way. But you can have a Miller hearing, so doesn't apply anything in this shooter's case. We don't want to say the name because that's what he wanted, so we're not going to say the name. But he wasn't the driver. He was the shooter, so it doesn't apply.
One quick question is probably a very basic question, and it's always the death penalty has never been part of it because not here in Michigan, right?
We don't have the death penalty in Michigan.
Right.
If it's a federal case, there is the federal death penalty, but there was never a death penalty case.
Right.
Michigan was the first state in the union, I think, to undo the death penalty. We have a long history of not having a death penalty in Michigan. It never was a death penalty case.
When does it end for these families in Oxford, this community, and for people in southeastern Michigan? When does it end? It feels like this has just been one court date after another, and they just keep reliving these painful memories.
Well, I've talked to a number of the family members. They're never going to forget it, but I think tomorrow will be, there's a formal sentencing date, but I think tomorrow will go a long ways to at least putting some of it behind them.
Yeah.
But we're going to start this first part of next year, perhaps, with the parents' case.
Yeah.
That case is still in the Michigan Supreme Court on the fundamental issue, can the parents be charged criminally for the murder committed by their son? That's essentially the argument. A little more complicated, but that's essentially it. And that's in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has not made a ruling on that. That could come down any time. Lower judges have said, yes, of course, the parents can be charged for their role. But really, there was a shooter here who did the murder.
Right.
Parents did not. They didn't know about it. But could they be responsible for their minors' behavior? That's huge. That's a big case, and that will get a lot of attention because it's kind of a first, the parents' case. But this one tomorrow, we will see what the judge does.
My goodness. Lions football tonight, so you guys did Let It Rip last night.
Let It Rip last night. Check it out.
Online.
Online. It's online right now. And by the way, check that out. We talked about the UAW, the strike, and some of the intricacies there. Is that a Lions game on Fox 2?
It is a Lions game on Fox 2. You don't need that silly streaming app of Prime Video.
Just tune in.
Yes, that's it.
Tonight, Fox 2.
Big
night.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie. We'll take a quick break and be right back.